The Var Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. They were feared everywhere. Whole worlds had fallen to them without a single shot fired. When the Var came, most species surrendered instantly. They believed resistance was useless. The Dominion's war fleets were massive, their weapons unmatched, their spies everywhere. In the council hall of Var Prime, leaders spoke with pride. No enemy had ever lasted more than one battle against them. That pride began to crack the day. The humans arrived. It started with a small report from a far-off sector. A border patrol had spotted unknown ships, sleek, dark, with no identifying markings. They did not respond to hails. The patrol commander laughed and ordered them to stand down or be destroyed. No reply came. Minutes later, the patrol vanished. Not destroyed, vanished. Their signal cut off in mid-sentence. The sector command sent more ships. None returned. At first, the Var thought it was a malfunction, but the reports kept coming. Whole squadrons disappearing without debris, without distress calls. Ships that had been in one place were simply gone. Those few who managed to escape spoke of strange weapons, beams that bent in impossible angles, ships that moved like shadows, and a silence in the void so deep it felt alive. They said the human ships were hunting them. The Var High Council gathered in the great chamber. 12 leaders in robes of crimson and gold sat around the black marble table. Above them, a giant star map showed the frontier zones. Red lights blinked where battles had been lost. The room buzzed with tension. "Who are these humans?" one counselor demanded. "Their technology is unknown to our records. Their movements are unpredictable. They are a minor species from the Sol system," another replied with a dismissive wave. "I have read the old archives. Their homeworld is small. Their armies have never faced an empire like ours. Then why, the Emperor's voice cut through the chamber, has a single fleet of theirs destroyed 5 of ours?" Silence fell. The Emperor turned to Admiral Koresh, the most feared commander in the Dominion. "You will take Fleet Prime, crush them, bring me their flagships as trophies." Koresh saluted. "It will be done." 2 days later, Fleet Prime, the pride of the Dominion, entered the frontier sector where the humans had last been seen. Hundreds of warships formed an iron wall in space, their hulls glowing with energy shields, their weapons ready. Koresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Var's Glory, confident. Then, the human fleet appeared. Only 12 ships. The bridge crew stared. "Is this a joke?" one officer muttered. Koresh's eyes narrowed. These ships were different from anything he had seen. Black hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight. No visible weapons, no energy signatures. They moved with eerie precision, every turn perfectly timed. Signaled them, offer them a chance to surrender. No response. "Fire," Koresh ordered. The Dominion's warships unleashed a storm of plasma bolts, missiles, and beam cannons. For a moment, space lit up like a newborn star. But when the light faded, the human ships were still there, untouched. Then, they moved, not forward, but sideways, vanishing from sensors and reappearing inside the Dominion's formation. They fired once, just once, and an entire line of Var cruisers went dark. No explosions, no wreckage, just silence. The surviving ships tried to flee, but the humans were already there, cutting off every escape. Koresh shouted orders, his voice breaking. "All ships regroup. Protect the flagship." But his crew froze as they watched the impossible happen. Their own targeting systems were locking onto their ships, weapons turning inward. One by one, Dominion ships fired on each other, their computers overridden by an enemy they couldn't even see. In less than an hour, Fleet Prime was gone. Koresh's ship was the last. The human flagship appeared directly ahead. Its hull shifted, as if alive, patterns of light rippling across its surface. A voice came over the calm, cold, and unmistakably human. Go home. The humans didn't fire. They simply left, vanishing into the void. Koresh returned to VAR Prime in a single battered shuttle. He entered the council hall, his armor scorched, his eyes hollow. The chamber was silent as he spoke. If you value your lives, never face them again. One fleet is enough. But even as his words echoed, an alarm blared through the chamber. The star map above them lit up, not with one red zone, but 10. 10 human fleets had entered Dominion space from 10 different directions. The galaxy's most feared empire froze in fear. The humans weren't just here to fight. They were here to end the Dominion. The alarm still echoed in the council hall. Every member of the VAR High Council stared at the giant star map above them. 10 bright red points pulsed across the map, spread over the Dominion's borders like drops of blood on a canvas. 10 human fleets, all entering at once. It was not an attack. It was a strike from every direction. The Emperor rose slowly from his throne. His long robe brushed the polished black floor. This is not war, he said quietly. This is execution. The words chilled the room. Messages poured in from the outer colonies. Entire defense lines had been bypassed. No one understood how the humans moved so fast. They seemed to appear inside heavily guarded systems without passing through any known hyperspace lanes. Some reports claimed they were using slipspace tunnels, never recorded in Dominion archives. Others said the humans had found a way to fold space itself. In the grand capital city, panic began to spread. Citizens crowded into supply stores. Ships overloaded with refugees tried to leave the system, only to be turned away by military patrols. Every broadcast channel replayed Koresh's warning. One fleet had destroyed Fleet Prime. Now there were 10. The Emperor summoned his war council, the chamber filled with admirals, generals, and intelligence directors. They stood around a holographic map of the Dominion. It showed in real time where human fleets were advancing, cutting through sectors in hours, not days. We must gather all remaining fleets and strike one of their forces before they reach the core worlds, said Admiral Rather, a broad-shouldered warrior with medals covering his chest. If we destroy one, it will show they are not gods. They are not gods, General Tyvek snapped. They are predators. They study us. They learn every weakness before they strike. And when they strike, they do not miss. A younger officer stepped forward, his voice trembling. The humans, they do not take prisoners. Our crews vanish. Our colonies go silent. No distress calls, no survivors. It's like they erase entire places. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Why? No one answered. Meanwhile, across the Dominion, chaos deepened. In the city of Kareth Prime, people gathered at the spaceport, desperate to flee. But when a shadow passed over the twin suns, they looked up and saw it, one of the human fleets, gliding silently above the atmosphere. No bombardment, no weapons fire. The ships simply hung there, dark and unmoving, like predators watching prey. Hours later, they were gone. But the city's defense systems never came back online. In the council hall, The Emperor's patience began to break. If they want war, they will have it. Activate the Titan program. Gasps filled the room. The Titan program was the Dominion's last secret weapon, 3 massive dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon, armed with weapons capable of cracking a planet's crust. They had been in development for decades, hidden in deep space. Docks within hours, orders were sent. The Titans began to power up. But even in their secret docks, something was wrong. The engineers reported strange malfunctions. Control systems were failing. Automated repair drones had been reprogrammed. Then the first Titan fired, not at the humans, but at a Dominion shipyard. The Emperor slammed his fist against the table. They are inside our systems. Reports confirmed it. The humans had somehow taken control of the Titans before they had even left their docks. One by one, the dreadnought's engines shut down. Then, in eerie silence, they turned their weapons on each other. The Dominion's last hope burned in the void. The War Council fractured. Some leaders begged the Emperor to surrender before the humans reached the capital. Others swore they would fight to the last ship. But deep down, they all felt the same thing, dread. On the bridge of the human flagship, Midnight Spear, Admiral Elias Vaughn watched as the Dominion's borders collapsed. He said nothing to his crew. Every maneuver had been planned months in advance. Every strike was surgical. He knew the Dominion would never recover, but this was not revenge. This was prevention. The humans had studied the VAR for years, knowing that one day they would try to conquer Sol. This war was simply ending before it began. In the Dominion capital, the Emperor stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the stars. One fleet had been enough to terrify his people. 10 fleets would end them. But what he feared most was not the fleets themselves. It was the thought that humanity might have even more. Waiting beyond the edge of the map, the next day, a fleet appeared at the very edge of the capital system. Not firing, not advancing, just waiting. The Emperor understood. They were giving him a choice. Surrender now, or face what came next. The VAR Dominion's borders collapsed like dry leaves in a storm. Messages came faster than the Council could read them. Entire sectors went dark without warning. Star systems stopped responding to comms. Merchant convoys vanished mid. It was as if pieces of the galaxy were being erased from the map. The human fleets did not move together. Each of the 10 fleets struck in different regions, far apart but perfectly coordinated. Fleet 1 attacked the industrial worlds in the east. Fleet 2 destroyed the deep space fuel depots in the south. Fleet 3 took the mining colonies along the asteroid belts. Every target was important. Every strike crippled something vital in the Dominion's war rooms. Admirals tried to find a pattern, but there was none they could predict. Wherever they sent reinforcements, humans avoided the trap, or worse, used the reinforcements' arrival to cut off escape routes. On the human flagship Midnight Spear, Admiral Elias Vaughn studied the latest reports. He saw no reason to rush. The VAR were dying on their own now. Without fuel, without shipyards, without supply lines, their mighty fleets were nothing more than drifting metal. Stay the course, he told his officers. We do not fight for glory, we fight for silence. In the capital, the Emperor's face grew thinner each day. His sleep was filled with dreams of black ships sliding silently through the dark, dreams that turned into visions of his cities burning. His advisors urged him to rally his people, but he could not inspire them anymore. The Dominion had always been a predator. Now it was prey. In the frontier system of Carath-9, the second wave arrived. 30 human warships dropped out of in perfect formation. The VAR defense fleet was ready, weapons locked. Their commander, Admiral Dravik, had sworn he would not retreat. The first volley was his. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked toward the human ships. Not one hit. The humans shifted formation so quickly it looked like they had predicted the attack before it was fired. Then the counterstrike came, but it wasn't a weapon blast. The VAR's targeting systems simply died. Their engines stuttered. Whole ships powered down in mid-battle. A few drifted helplessly into the planet's gravity well, burning in the atmosphere. Others were boarded silently by human marines who took control without a single shot. From there, the pattern was always the same. The humans disabled, took, or erased every military asset in the sector, and then they left. No speeches, no negotiations, no prisoners in the inner worlds. Fear turned into rebellion. Some Dominion governors declared independence, hoping the humans would spare them. Others sent desperate envoys with offers of tribute. Most never heard back. One such governor, a shrewd old alien named Sereth, invited a human envoy to his palace. The man who arrived wore no armor, carried no weapon. He sat quietly, listening to Sereth's offers. Finally, the human spoke. "We do not want your wealth. We want your silence." Then he left. Hours later, Sereth's palace was empty. Its guards gone, its systems wiped. No one knew if he had fled or been taken. The War Council in the capital met again, but now the room was half empty. Many admirals were gone, lost in battle, captured, or vanished entirely. The Emperor slammed his hand on the table. "We must make a stand. One last stand. If we fall without fighting, we will be remembered as cowards." They agreed. The remnants of the Dominion's navy, what was left after the second wave, would gather near the twin sun system of Verith, the symbolic heart of the Empire. Thousands of ships, every weapon they could mount, every soldier they could find. They would face at least one of the human fleets and destroy it. It was a plan born from desperation. When the day came, the Dominion's greatest armada formed a shining wall above the suns. Commanders spoke to their crews, telling them they fought for survival, for their families, for the 1,000-year reign of the Dominion. But every one of them had heard the same stories, a single human fleet destroying hundreds of ships, 10 fleets burning entire sectors. And yet, when the human fleet arrived, it was smaller than they expected. Only 15 ships, against thousands. The Dominion opened fire first. The void lit with explosions and burning plasma streams. But the humans didn't break formation. They moved like pieces on a chessboard, each step perfect. In minutes, the Dominion's forward lines collapsed. Then, in one terrifying moment, every Dominion ship's systems went black. Engines off, weapons dead, shields gone. On their darkened bridges, crews could only watch as human ships drifted slowly between them, silent and untouchable, and just as suddenly, the lights came back. Engines roared, but the enemy was gone. Every VAR commander screamed for pursuit, but the humans had left nothing behind except a message broadcast on all channels. This was not your last battle. The last one is still to come. The second wave was over. The real end was on its way. The Emperor stood before the great viewing window of his palace, staring into the darkness of space. Out there, somewhere, the humans were moving. He could not see them, but he could feel them. Every Dominion world felt them now, an invisible shadow crawling through the stars. taking one system after another. He had no illusions left. The second wave had broken the Dominion's back. Supply chains were gone, shipyards destroyed, colonies scattered. But the Emperor refused to die quietly. If this was the end, it would be over the capital. With the banners of the Dominion flying until the last breath, the orders went out. Every surviving ship, every armed transport, every orbital station was called to defend the capital world. Var Prime, from the furthest edges of the Empire, fleets limped home, their hulls scarred, their crews exhausted. They gathered in the system like fragments of a shattered sword. The capital's skies turned into a fortress. Orbital platforms bristled with cannons. Massive shield generators lit the upper atmosphere in a faint blue glow. On the surface, billions prepared for the siege. Soldiers dug trenches. Cities stored food and water. Civilians were drilled for evacuation. The War Council met one final time. Only 6 of the original 12 councillors remained. Their eyes were hollow. The Emperor's voice was steady but heavy. We will fight until our last ship falls. If we strike them down here, perhaps the galaxy will remember that the Dominion did not kneel. No one said what they all knew. They had never struck down a single human fleet. Far beyond the capital, in the cold emptiness of space, the human fleets moved. Admiral Elias Vaughan had assembled them for the final strike. 10 fleets now became one, their formation stretching across thousands of kilometers. The flagship Midnight Spear led the way, its black hull reflecting no light. Its weapons, systems, silent but ready. The humans didn't rush. They approached like a tide, steady, unstoppable. Long before they were visible, Dominion's sensors screamed. Warnings. The great defense fleets positioned themselves, spreading in a vast arc to cover every approach vector. When the humans arrived, the battle began without words. The Dominion opened fire with everything they had. Planetary cannons hurled plasma into space. Orbital stations unleashed missile storms. Dreadnoughts fired beams so bright they burned streaks across the black. Space lit up in a furious blaze. For a moment, it seemed like the humans would be overwhelmed. But then, the light faded, and the human fleets were still there. Not a single ship had been destroyed. Then the counterattack began. It was not like any battle the Dominion had fought before. There was no roaring exchange of fire. The human ships moved like living shadows, weaving between enemy formations. There, weapons struck with surgical precision, one shot, one kill. Dominion destroyers went dark, drifting powerless. Cruisers spun out of control, colliding with their allies. Massive carriers broke apart silently, their wreckage swallowed by the void. And then came the fear. One by one, Dominion ships began turning on each other. Crews screamed over comms that their controls were locked, their systems hijacked. Some ships rammed their own allies. Others opened fire on the capital's defenses. The humans were not just attacking. They were inside every system, controlling every machine. The Emperor watched from the palace as the defensive lines fell apart. He could hear the explosions even from the surface, deep rumbles that shook. The marble halls. His guards urged him to evacuate, but he shook his head. A ruler dies with his world. The last organized resistance came from the Var's Wrath, the largest dreadnought still operational. It turned its massive guns on the human flagship and fired everything it had. The blasts struck the Midnight Spear, dead center, and vanished into its hull without effect. The human flagship returned fire with a single shot. The Var's Wrath split in two, its pieces drifting silently into the capital's gravity well. Now nothing stood between the humans and the planet, but they did not fire on the cities. Instead, they took control of every defense platform, every planetary shield, every communication line. Across the capital, screens came to life with a single message: "Your war is over." Then, as quickly as they had arrived, the human fleets began to pull back. One by one, they vanished into the black, leaving the Dominion's capital untouched but powerless. The Emperor stood alone in the council chamber, his empire gone. He looked up at the empty sky and whispered, "We feared one fleet. Now we know why they sent 10. The war was over, but the galaxy did not celebrate. There were no parades, no songs, no monuments, only silence. The Var Dominion, which had ruled for 1,000 years, now existed only in memory. Its fleets were gone, its colonies cut off, its leaders either vanished or too afraid to speak. The capital still stood, untouched by fire, yet it felt like a tomb. The great banners of the Dominion hung motionless, heavy with the weight of defeat. In the quiet streets of Var Prime, civilians walked as if in a dream. No one knew what the humans wanted. They had destroyed everything that gave the Dominion power: the fleets, the shipyards, the weapons, but they had not conquered. No human soldiers marched in the streets. No flags were planted. They had come like a storm and left just as suddenly. In the council chamber, now half empty, the Emperor sat alone. The other councillors had either fled or vanished. His advisors had stopped sending reports. Even the palace guards seemed to have melted away. He replayed the last transmission over and over in his mind. The words were simple, spoken in that cold human voice: "Your war is over." But what haunted him most was what they had not said. They had not demanded tribute. They had not claimed territory. They had not named themselves rulers. They had left him alive, left his planet standing, but stripped of every means to fight again. It was a warning across the galaxy. Other civilizations watched in silence. The smaller empires that had once feared the Dominion now feared something far worse. Some sent messages to Sol, offering friendship and trade. Others began dismantling their own war fleets, afraid the humans might see them as a threat. On the far edge of known space, the human fleets did not return home. They spread out, vanishing into the void. Their movements were impossible to track. Sometimes a black ship would appear above a world for a single day, then disappear without a word. People began to whisper about the Watchers. They said the humans had left eyes everywhere, hidden ships waiting in the dark. They said that if any empire tried to rise too high, the Watchers would come again, bringing the silence with them. 1 year after the fall of the Dominion, a deep space miner in the effect belt made an unusual report. While scanning a newly opened asteroid, his sensors picked up a massive object buried inside the rock. It was not natural. It was a ship, black, silent, its surface marked with the same strange patterns the human fleets had carried. Before he could investigate further, the ship vanished. In the archives of neutral worlds, historians began rewriting the galaxy's history. The chapter of the Var Dominion was short now, a brief note before the age of humanity. But no one knew what to call this new age. Some called it the Age of Silence. Others called it the Long Shadow, on a distant station orbiting a dead moon. Admiral Elias Vaughn stood before a massive holographic map of the galaxy. 10 fleets had become 12. 12 had become 15. All were hidden, scattered across deep space. The mission was not over. The Dominion had been the first. It would not be the last. One of his officers approached. "Sir, we've received a transmission from the observation posts near the Krell Alliance. Their fleet production is increasing." Vaughn studied the map for a long moment, then nodded. "Prepare the fleets. We move when they think we aren't looking." Back on Var Prime, the Emperor wandered the empty halls of his palace. The stars outside seemed colder now, their light sharper. He knew the humans were still out there. He could feel it. He had once believed the Dominion was eternal. Now he understood the truth. Nothing in the galaxy was eternal, except the fear of the dark ships. That night, he dreamed of them again. A single fleet, black against the stars, gliding toward his world. Then 10, then 20. No sound, no mercy, only silence. When he awoke, the palace was still quiet. But for a moment he thought he saw something through the window, a shadow moving across the night sky, blotting out the stars. It was gone in an instant. He told himself it was nothing, but deep down he knew. The Watchers had never left.